Today on Immunity Group Australia podcast, we have an amazing guest, Australia's top health coach, Sharon Selby. Welcome to our podcast, Sharon.
I'm so thrilled to be here, Nina.
Thank you for making time to come and visit us in person. Can you please explain to our audiences, what does a health coach do?
So a health coach is really, in terms of qualifications, it's an online course that I did for a year. And I had no aspirations to become a health coach. But when I moved to Sydney 13 years ago from Dubai, I lived there for 7 years, and I was always in pretty good health. But when I moved to Sydney, as a new mum, I had a 7-week-old son, and I started to develop very bad asthma and hay fever. And it got so bad that I was fast-tracked to see specialists, and I did all the allergy testing, and I was very allergic to the dust and pollen in Sydney. So my GP, given the results that I got, said, you've got two choices. Sydney doesn't work for you because you are so allergic, you're better off going back to Dubai or back to overseas, or we can give you all of this medication, which was steroids and nasal sprays and things like that. I was told that Sydney is actually the asthma capital of the world, and I didn't realize. And I never had asthma. I had a little bit when I was a child, but when I moved here as a new mum, it became extremely bad. So within a couple of months of moving, I was on 8 rounds of steroids a day, every single day.
That would have been horrible for a new mom having to look after a baby on top of all that.
It was, but I have to say the relief from the symptoms was good initially, but I was on this medication for 2 years. And I think after a while, you know, the issue in the body, whatever inflammation I had, was starting to be expressed in other ways because they were getting suppressed. So I developed chronic fatigue. I had zero immune system. So my son started going to daycare, and he would pick up every single bug and flu and virus, and I would catch it too. And there was literally, I would get over one cold to then develop another one, and I ended up with pneumonia twice and needing antibiotics. And so I developed chronic fatigue. I had low immunity, so I was getting sick often. I had migraines. So I was on not just the steroids, but so much other medication as well, painkillers, and then over-the-counter cold and flu remedies. And then after 2 years, I mean, I didn't know any other way.
But there must have been a wake-up call.
There was a wake-up call. And I was just mentally very low. And so I went to my GP because I didn't know where to get help, but I was really concerned about my well-being. And we did a test, and she said, okay, well, let's do a mental health care plan and test. Can you fill this questionnaire in? And I filled the questionnaire in thinking I'd actually answered it rather positively. And then when I went to meet her again, we sat down, and she said, you know, I've gone through your results, and your diagnosis is severe depression.
So it must have been a big surprise for you.
I was shocked because I never really struggled with mental health issues, and I was really low for a couple of years. But when I heard that was my wake-up call. And so from there, I had another script. Here's some antidepressants. You need to speak to someone. Let's get you a therapist. Here's a mental health care plan. And you can get a rebate. So I walked home, and I was in a bit of just in a real fog and just in shock. I think hearing those words on top of everything else you've done and trying so hard and not really seeing a way out. I remember just going to bed that night and then waking up the next morning, and it felt like I had a different lens on my life. And I thought...
So it was a useful conversation with the GP.
It was life-changing.
In a way.
It was a life-changing moment. And I remember that morning, I decided I was going to change some things in my diet. I had no nutrition background. I actually didn't know how to cook well. I was mentioning before that I lived in Dubai, and I was head of PR and marketing for a developer there. So there was no cooking required. But I did do something very interesting in Dubai, actually, and I think that's what sparked the idea in me. I remember one time in Dubai doing a 2-week detox, and the healthcare professional I had, and it was more out of interest, he said, take out dairy, take out gluten, take out refined sugar, He said, you'll feel very differently in 2 weeks. And I remember living in Dubai, that was almost impossible to do because there's such a big social life there. But I did it, and I remember having incredible energy after 2 weeks. So when I got this diagnosis, fast track a few years later, I thought, you know what, I'm going to do this again. It helped once. Now I actually need to do something different. But I didn't expect any results. I think what it was my last possibility to have some control over my life, because everything else I couldn't control. I couldn't control my joy, my happiness, my health, what I was doing with my life. I was so lost. And so I decided to do this 2-week plan. I took out dairy, took out gluten, took out sugar, and then I made an extra promise to myself. I wasn't going to go to bed unless I had at least, I think it was 5 to 8 fruit and vegetable servings a day. And that was it. And I didn't know how to cook, so adding the fruit and vegetables, I had to start getting creative in the kitchen.
Fruits. And
yeah. So yeah, not processed. So after 2 weeks, I definitely noticed an improvement again. Not as big. I think my health issues were quite severe at that time. But I noticed I had a bit more energy. And straight away, one symptom I didn't get anymore was I had no more headaches.
That's a massive
So
relief.
I used to get migraines. I'm not joking, I told a naturopath once I was on a packet of painkillers a week for headaches. It was constant. And then after that, I stopped getting sick. And so I decided after 2 weeks, well, I'm feeling better. I'm going to carry on. So then about another month in, I started having a lot more energy. And I started going to the gym in the morning before my son would wake up.
Wow.
And I couldn't even get out of bed because I had chronic fatigue. So I was like, well, I'm just going to keep doing this. And I had no attachment to a goal or anything. I just assumed I'd have asthma and hay fever forever while I lived in Sydney. And so,
that's what you were told.
Yeah. And so then, but amazingly, by 3 months, I had no hay fever anymore. And so I took off half the steroid medication. And then 2 months after that, I no longer had asthma. So after 5 months, just doing those 2 main things, the elimination diet and adding more fruit and vegetables, and not even having the highest quality diet, because I was also doing gluten-free, dairy-free where I could, but I became symptom and medication-free.
That's incredible.
And yeah, that shocked me, and I had to understand what happened.
What happened to your body?
Yeah, what happened? And I was like, maybe my body just got used to being in Sydney. Was it the food? I don't really know. So I went and studied nutrition, and it just happened to be a health coaching course. But I just wanted to know what happened. And you'll know my line, like, how did a stay-at-home severely depressed mum accidentally heal herself when the doctors could only manage my symptoms? And that then is what propelled me to build my business.
And tell me about your children. A lot of advice in your courses are about children.
Yes.
How much of an inspiration were they for your work, and how did you incorporate children in the work on nutrition?
So my kids are my biggest source of inspiration. Actually, working with mums as well, they inspire me so much. I'm so passionate to help them because they really are the main caregivers for children. And
especially in this country.
Despite
all the myths, yes.
Yeah, I moved from Dubai at the wrong time.
In Dubai, mums would have a lot more help than in Australia.
That's
many
right,
mums.
that's true. Right. But when I got better, I was ready to try and have another baby, and I fell pregnant quickly, and I couldn't wait to enjoy my second baby without all of the health issues and the depression that I had as being a first-time mum. So I did all the right things. I'd studied nutrition. I was eating really well, and I knew how I wanted to deliver and raise this baby. What I was not prepared for, and what my studies as a health coach did not prepare me for, was his health issues. So he had reflux and eczema, and I couldn't understand it because I took out the inflammatory foods that normally help people. And when I started weaning him, that's when I realized he had allergies, and I never worked with allergies before. And he had allergies to dairy and eggs. And because
same as my daughter.
Yeah, dairy, cow's milk protein and eggs. But he also was severely intolerant to salicylates, which is a natural occurring chemical in most fruit and vegetables. I'd never heard of this in my studies either. So when I started weaning him, whether I gave him banana or apple or avocado, he would throw up within half an hour, completely throw up and get full body hives, and his eczema would flare. And
that would have been so scary.
It was really scary. And it was frustrating because I wanted to give him all these healthy foods and he couldn't eat them. So I was feeling really stuck, and I have to say that the healthcare system in Sydney at the time was limiting. It was wait and see, let's see if he grows out of it. You know, for a mum who's dealing with reflux eczema, and he was highly attached to me, he had separation anxiety because he'd throw up so much. Wait and see just one more day is too stressful to think about, but to sort of wait and see until what, you know? So I didn't find like I really got the support I wanted.
Have you gone to dietitians or?
I went to naturopaths and that helped, but I have to say my own health breakthrough and that experience that I had gave me a lot of confidence that I could help my son. And that's what I did. And I really felt that food is medicine. And so I really learned about gut health and how that impacts the immune system. You know, between 70 to 80% of our immune cells are built from the gut. So our gut bacteria is so important for our immune health and also our mental health and everything else. And so I just really focused on every meal for him was about giving him medicine. So
every single meal.
I never bought any processed foods. I never bought the squeezy pouches. Everything was made from scratch.
Wow, so that would have taken a lot of time, effort, but also planning.
A little bit of planning, but I also worked out loads of shortcuts to make it possible, because also I was very passionate about what I was eating and my husband, and also what my 2-year-old or 3-year-old, at the time, I was very passionate about what he ate as well. So I was cooking separately for Cooper, and because I was breastfeeding him, he and I were on the same diet. Brilliant for weight loss.
A lot of elimination.
Yeah. That was extreme weight loss. But I also was very passionate about making sure we ate well as well. So I learned how to make stews, and they're so easy. So I would make my own chicken bone broth, which is full of gelatin and minerals and everything that supports immunity, like chicken noodle soup or chicken soup has been around for centuries across every single culture in the world, because it really helps the immune system if it's made from scratch. So I'd make stews, and it would literally be the same recipe, because he could only eat pumpkin, sweet potato, leeks. He could only have parsley stems, not leaves. It was so extreme, his diet. I would put bone broth in there, and then I would either slow cook lamb, beef, or chicken, or lentils. And so I'd make a big pot. My freezer was amazingly organized with all these different compartments. And, you know, I'd wake up in the morning and I'd look at Cooper in the high chair and I'd say, Cooper, what are we having today? Chicken or beef?
Like on the plane.
Yeah, it was exactly like that. And
Wow.
That's what he literally had for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And by 18 months of age, he never went on any medication. He was allergy-free, intolerant-free, reflux-free, eczema-free.
Wow.
And I think the difference for me, when I was going through that time, I thought I was experiencing this on my own. I didn't know anyone who had these extreme conditions.
1 in 10 Australian babies
develop
allergies.
And when I look at my friends, they weren't having these issues. And so what I did was I went online into Facebook groups thinking, okay, where can I get support? And that's where I realized I wasn't alone. In fact, hundreds of thousands of mums are desperately seeking support and help for acid reflux, for colicky babies, for eczema babies, for babies that can't tolerate cow's milk protein or eggs and stuff like that. And then what I noticed in these groups that I was in for a few years was that these babies were not getting better. They were actually getting sicker.
And even more allergies develop over time.
And more allergies, because their immune system was, struggling. So then they would get infections, and then they'd have antibiotics. And I actually have to say, if I speak to any practitioners, and I do work with practitioners, antibiotics has to be the very last resort, because it doubles the rates of allergies if you give antibiotics to a baby that's 6 months or under. Doubles. eczema, allergies, hay fever, things like that. So that's when I came up with the idea of, and so while these other mums, their families were sort of going downhill, and I was trying to help them, instead of getting support, I was actually trying to give support. But it was very frustrating that I didn't have a big enough voice. And so I then developed my course, the gut health course.
Wow.
Which is designed for mums that were in my position who have babies, toddlers, or even teenagers that are experiencing conditions like eczema, allergies, atopic conditions, asthma, hay fever, and just want to get to the root cause of that inflammation in the gut to support the immune system to balance it out. And that's what I've created. I created that 6 years ago, and now have over 25,000 students.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is incredible. Do you have any doctors for students? Because it seems that there is this disparity between doctors, general practitioners at the first line of contact, but even some specialists, and the treating of the symptoms rather than the cause. How do you see that disparity? Why do we have such a massive disparity?
Well, I think it's in the education. I mean, I haven't trained as a doctor, but I don't believe nutrition is a big part of their training. But what is clear to me is that while these conditions are really common, they are extremely abnormal, because, you know, even if you just sneeze and you're allergic to dust or to grass or to pollen, that means you're allergic to nature, and you were meant to thrive in nature, you know? So instead of trying to minimize dust exposure and pollen and all of this stuff, which is very difficult to do, close to impossible, there are measures, you know, air filters and things like that. But like me, I had to correct what was inside, correct that inflammation inside to be able to tolerate outside. And I just don't think practitioners have that awareness or training or experience. I think they're very good at diagnosing what a condition is and then finding a treatment program, generally medicine. And I'm really grateful to medicine, because when I first started living here, if I didn't have steroids, I don't know what would have happened to me. If we don't have EpiPens, you know, I feel like medicine's amazing to save lives, but it's not the only solution to be able to thrive in life. And that was the difference that I experienced. I was surviving, but I was not thriving. And as soon as I brought nutrition in, my life completely changed. And it's unrecognizable now.
And you said you feel younger and
I feel so
full of energy compared to
massive.
even 10 years ago.
More than when I was even in my 20s.
And how would you explain that?
I think it's food. It's a holistic approach that I have. Eating clean 80% of the time, because I do love going out occasionally still, and I love enjoying myself and having a nice time. But when I'm at home, I eat really well. My kids are very frustrated with me.
They do love salads.
It's because of the dressing.
Okay, so this is the key. The
little things that make food delicious and adding flavor. Yeah, actually, I can't remember your question.
Well, the question is, what are sort of the main
the energy. Where's the
factors
energy?
Behind this massive change?
Yeah, because I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue twice. It was twice I had it. I think when you have inflammation, you just don't feel good in your body. And when you take out foods that you're sensitive to, so I'm obviously not allergic to dairy or gluten or soy or anything like that, but I have a sensitivity to them. So if our immune system is sensitive to it, that creates inflammation. So your body's busy trying to protect you instead of, you know, enjoying yourself. So I really think number one is identify what foods you're sensitive to. Clear that out for a little while. And my goal in my course, by the way, is not to be gluten and dairy free forever or egg free forever. My goal is let's heal the gut, get rid of that inflammation, and then let's bring those foods that we enjoy back in moderation and live life fully. So eat freely, live fully.
And in your public education, essentially, role, what do you find the most challenging when talking to, let's say, new students, or even you are on television as well, in terms of the questions you get, is there a lot of disbelief initially, or what surprises you most when you start teaching?
Yes, I think what's very clear is because there's not enough education around it about actually what is possible. So that's why I do share my story a lot, because a lot of parents can relate to it. But then, so there is not realizing, simply not knowing that it's possible to live symptom and medication free is the goal, because that's what's normal. They don't know that's possible. And then two, the limiting belief that this is going to be too hard. My child won't cooperate. I'm not a good enough cook. I don't have time. I'm too stressed out. I can't take on anything else.
So it's mental, really.
Yes, the limiting beliefs are the biggest block that I have to deal with. Because in actual fact, to heal is really rather simple. I did it by accident, you know?
It was almost like a revelation in a way.
Yeah.
And tell us about your courses.
Yeah, so it's 10 modules. It takes 10 hours, and it's a real holistic approach to healing the gut. I have 10 different types of practitioners in there, mostly naturopaths, authors, speakers, researchers, who have also gone through their own health breakthrough, often with their children. So we have an incredible practitioner called Dr. Heather Way, who very much specializes in gut health, and GAPS is an area that she's qualified in. But she had 2 autistic children, and by just her treatment plan, they are now in mainstream. They went to mainstream schools. They led normal lives. I've got one practitioner who reversed her children's allergies using nutrition. And so these are very inspiring speakers who are so dedicated and passionate. And I think any type of practitioner who has had that experience of pain, dealing with chronic disease, and then being able to reverse it and thrive, these people are unbelievable. You know, conviction, experience, passion is huge, and you can't help but listen. So actually, the course is really listening to 10 incredible videos, and each one takes you step by step to improving gut health. And it's the protocol. The system is called HEAL. H stands for highlighting the trigger foods that are causing you problems, and most people don't realize that what they're eating every day is affecting their health. So 9 out of 10 people have a food intolerance, and 9 out of those 10 people don't realize that it's the food they're eating that's causing the chronic conditions. So H is for highlight, E is for eliminate. We want to eliminate effectively. We want to eliminate with purpose. So it's not just a case of let's take out eggs and dairy and then have these egg-free, dairy-free cake mixes that are full of additives and preservatives that are not going to help your gut health. Because if we're going to eliminate food, that's really challenging and really hard. We want to do that for a very short period of time. So that's the elimination part of the course. And that's where you get my Thrive cookbook. You get 100 recipes. They're all so easy. You get meal plans, you get videos, and you realize that it's actually really easy to cook a lot in a very short period of time. And what to replace certain foods with. Because if you tell a mother, oh, by the way, to heal, you need to take out dairy and gluten, her face drops, because that's her two biggest food groups that her child loves. So how do I make that as simple and as easy and as doable as possible? And that's what that part of the course does. And then we've got A, which is activate the gut. So there's many ways that we can activate the gut. If I'm going to get students and parents to eliminate foods, I want to heal that gut really fast. And I'm talking about a few weeks. And then we need supplements. We need to take out toxic chemicals from the house and toxic chemicals that we put on our skin, because whatever we put on our skin goes straight into the bloodstream and those toxins get carried around all over the body.
It's a very much comprehensive, all over assessment in a way,
to
be able to do that.
But it's actually really easy to do those. So, for example, if you need to buy new cleaning products, I have like a checklist of the cleaning products you need to buy if you're in Australia or wherever you are.
Wow.
And so you don't even have to do the thinking. So you watch the video with the expert that's very into, who specializes in toxins and chemicals, You become really motivated and you're like, okay, I have to make change. It's not even an option now that I understand what plastics are doing to us and how it's affecting our hormones and all of these things. So then you want to go into action. Then you have
Action
checklists and guides on how to do it, because as a mother, you don't have time to then do the research. So that's why the course gives you the answers. And then L, so you've got HEA, and then L is liberate. Liberate is, the idea is you have these foods back in your life. You eat freely, live fully. We don't want any restrictions anymore. We want to heal so that you can just enjoy life. And when you heal, I mean, that's what you want to. You want to go through this whole stuff to be symptom and medication free.
Unbelievable. Like, it sounds like a journey.
It is a bit of a...
But a guided journey.
It's a very guided journey. And then I'm in that, as part of the course, when you join the course, I'm in a Facebook group with how many students are doing it at the time. And then I have a team of 4 naturopaths that work with me, and they ask questions as well. I mean, they answer questions from the students.
That's incredible.
Yeah, because one thing I found out with me was natural healthcare is extremely expensive, and you have to make appointments, and to get any real answers, you have to get an appointment first, then you've got to do tests, then you've got to get the results, then you've got to have the second appointment, and before you know it, you've spent $1,000, and you might have
You haven't even started.
You haven't even started yet.
Yeah.
And then they send you home and you still don't know how to cook and do all the stuff at home. So even if you work with a naturopath, the course helps. And often our students don't even have to do that sometimes.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And is there much about daily habits such as coffee consumption?
So the course is very much geared towards kids. So we don't talk about that so much, but parents who apply the knowledge in the course, they also have their health breakthroughs. But then because we've got the support in the Facebook group between myself and the naturopaths, our mums are going in saying, actually, I need some help. I'm struggling with fatigue. I've got perimenopause symptoms. What can I do? And I'm very passionate about supporting women as well, and mums. Actually, probably more so. I think mums need to put the oxygen mask on themselves first before they can help their kids. And that was the beautiful thing about my journey. I naturally had to take care of my health. And once I did that, I was pretty much unstoppable in terms of what I could do for my children.
What an inspiring story. Would love all our listeners to hop onto your website, and if you could please share the details.
Yes, it's deliciouslyallergyfree.com.
And there they can contact you and
there they
get in
can
touch.
contact me. They can find out about my course. I have a free gut health guide that they can sign up to straight away. And yeah, lots of resources. And I have my membership there as well called the Allergy Free Club. And it's just really all about making life easier for mums.
And with 25,000 graduates, I mean, that is a massive number of students.
25,000 students have done classes
Wow.
and the course and the membership, so it's combined. Yeah.
Do you have any favorite story to share?
I do have an amazing story. I mean, I have so many inspiring stories of mums. They give you goosebumps. But one mum came to me she heard me on a podcast, and I was talking about my severe depression and anxiety. And she said, she came to me and said, I have a 16-year-old. I don't know if you can help me. But she has terrible anxiety. She can't study. It's affecting her school. She doesn't want to go to school. And so she said, will your gut health course and your program help? And I said, I believe it will, but it's not up to you. And it's not up to me. It's up to your daughter. And I said, if your daughter, so I gave her the hardest thing to do, and if she was willing to do that, I knew I could help her. And I said, I don't know what she needs to do yet, but is she willing to go dairy and gluten-free for a month? If she is, then I'll work with her, because I don't want this mum to waste money on me. And the reason I'm so passionate and confident about what I do is because of the results my students get. Otherwise, I'd have given up years ago. So she spoke to her daughter. Her daughter said, yes, she wants to do it. So we got on a Zoom call. And within 2 weeks of doing some changes, I looked at her gut health. I also looked at her liver and getting rid of toxins. And within 2 weeks, her anxiety was from, she said, a 9.5 to, I think it was like a 2.
Wow, that's
it just
a massive
changed.
result.
Or I don't know if it was a 2 weeks or it was 2 weeks or 4 weeks, but it was huge. with conventional practice, which there is definitely a place for, and I respect it, it's often, what's the condition, what's the symptom, let's get a medication for that, and let's get a medication, then something else comes up, let's do another medication, and we're putting out fires. And then when we address the root cause, which is inflammation and gut health, then the symptoms kind of drop like dominoes. So to me, the symptoms are just clues. I'm not like trying to fix just anxiety. My goal is to fix the inflammation in the body, to bring alkalinity back in and balance back into the body. And
to mom and daughter improving their mental health, because usually anxiety is a family issue, especially in kids. Yeah.
Just the Zoom sessions, I would see such a change. Just looking at their faces and their energy and their peace and their calm and their excitement as well.
Do you have any specific courses just for teenagers, for example, or is this kind of comprehensive approach for everybody?
Yeah, so I think as a family, it's really good to do a course like the gut health course, because everyone benefits from it. And if you want to do things efficiently, eating together as a family, you don't, a teenager cooking for herself, or a mum, what a lot of parents do is they cook for the allergy child one thing, another thing for the fussy eater, and then something else for the parents. It's really inefficient, and it's terribly stressful. So it's an evolution for the whole family to get rid of toxins, to eat better, to have some good lifestyle strategies in place to improve your health and well-being. And it doesn't really matter what the symptom is, whether it's mental health challenges, whether it's immune challenges, or whatever it is.
How do Aussie blokes react to it? They're famous Barbie. Is there ever a conversion sort of mentality? Yeah. Conversion rate for dads.
for dads. So yeah, don't have a high conversion rate just because dads just don't find me. It's the mums that seek me out. But I've had a few dads do the course, and once they do it, it just makes sense. And they're equally as passionate about it. And I remember one mum writing to me, she said, I've never been able to get my husband into nutrition and food. But she said he'd watch the videos and he would be so passionate about it. And I'd often say, changing a man's religion is far easier than changing the diet.
For sure, especially in Australia. It's such a kind of meat.
Yeah.
In a Barbie culture, in a way.
Yeah, but food is such a big source of comfort and entertainment. It's a major source of pleasure. So, people have this limiting belief that eating healthy is going to be too restrictive and too boring. True. And it's so not true.
And I remember in your podcast with webinar, actually, with Dr. Jones, now thinking back, most participants were women.
No, mostly. Were there
was
any
over
guys?
600, I remember.
Yeah.
And there were some guys, but
was there?
Many were women, the majority.
Yeah, all women.
And the questions are also very mum-focused and children-focused, reflecting back.
And I do feel sorry for the few guys that are on my database, because I often refer to them as mums. So they have a bit of an identity crisis.
But it's very important, I guess, for the whole family to approach nutrition in a new way. And
it's a family affair.
It's a family affair. Tell me about your experience on working with television. Now, that's another level of public education.
Yeah.
How did you end up doing that? Because that's a national education we're talking about.
That was really cool. I do a course that's called Supercharge Your Kids Immunity Challenge. It's called SICKI in short. And I teach people, a science-backed, this is proven by science, that if you eat 30 different types of fruit and vegetables a week, your immune system is in great shape. And plant-based food, so that's fruit, veggies, nuts, seeds, legumes, gluten-free grains. And so I was putting together this class, it was free and live, online, and then a producer from the Today Show said, you know what, this would be great on the Today Show. Do you want to put a pitch together? And I think this was like on the weekend. I was like, sure, okay, I mean, why not? So I put a pitch together, and then and I thought I would never hear back. And then about 2 hours later, the producer called me and said, can you come on the show on Wednesday?
Wow.
And I'd never done live TV before.
Amazing. So they organized the whole kitchen and...
No, actually I did. They were like, you have this space. Tell us what you want. We want that topic. Tell our viewers how do they supercharge your immune system with 30 different fruit and veg and plant-based.
So you had to create everything.
I created the whole thing. I did so much cooking. I did all the shopping and I set up the segment and I loved it. And ever since I've been going there really regularly about all sorts of different topics, but mainly about gut health, immune health, and just healthy eating, and making it really simple and practical and doable. Because I think there's so much noise out there and confusion, and like you need to have this superfood, you need to have this supplement, you need to have vitamin C with meat to absorb, you need to eat fat, lots and lots of fat, and it's like, oh, this is so complicated.
It does sound complicated.
And we just want to enjoy it, but we want to enjoy real food, not processed foods. So.
Do you ever get restaurant owners and restaurant groups in Australia trying to change their menus perhaps to cater for more health conscious audience, because Australia is becoming a little bit more health conscious than a lot of other Western countries like America, for example?
Absolutely. I think Australia's definitely quite forward thinking about that. I haven't personally worked with restaurants, but I have started to work with schools. So schools are now putting my gut health program in their national curriculum.
That's amazing.
I know.
Tell us more about that.
It just started off with one private school saying, Sharon, we want you to come in and talk about immunity, and also the year 11 girls, can we support brain health so they do better in their exams.
Wow.
And I thought that was so forward thinking of this school. It's part of their well-being curriculum. And then I've worked with the development team of certain food corporations that actually create very processed foods that I would often tell people not to go near. They want to learn how to make their products better. But there's a fine line between profitability and what consumers want as well. Consumers want food that has a long shelf life. They want food that stays soft and fluffy like the white bread.
With a lot of emulsifiers, which actually can contribute to inflammation.
So it's a whole education that's needed around nutrition. It's a very underutilized tool, but it's probably one of the most powerful.
And how do you feel after that experience with schools?
It is both daunting, but also so purposeful for me. If I can make a difference to girls that are at a young age, then I can hopefully alleviate some of the health issues later in life. And when I do these sessions, there's like 200 students in a room. But you know what? They are interested. They are listening, and they ask the best questions.
That's very encouraging.
Yeah. So the one thing I hear from my students consistently is doing this was so much easier than I thought.
That makes it possible for everybody.
If I could do it, anyone can do it.
Do you think it's possible perhaps to cater for English as second language ethnic groups in Australia?
English as a second language? Oh, so all my courses are in English. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Is it possible to capture perhaps ethnic communities in Australia who often live in their, like all of us from different ethnic backgrounds, have our own cultural habits, favorite foods and customs, which are not always healthy.
Yes.
And how to sort of educate different ethnic communities to think better about food.
Yeah, so the way I cook is very simple, but there's Asian, there's Middle Eastern, because I love all of this.
So it already is multi-ethnic.
Yeah, inspiration is already there. I mean,
Amazing.
I've got students all over the world. The most random place is Nigeria. So I'm thinking if there's families in Nigeria that are dealing with allergies and immune issues, and they're doing the course, like that's crazy.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So it's possible for every corner of the world.
For everyone, they can benefit from this knowledge, and they can benefit from the recipes as well.
Well, I look forward to perhaps becoming your student in the future, and then we can have a follow-up podcast in 6 months to see how it went.
Well, it only takes you 10 hours. You can learn all of this in 10 hours. So
I'm very ready for the challenge.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for being on our podcast. I would love our families and our listeners to find out more about your work and to listen to the course.
Oh, amazing. I would embrace them wholeheartedly.
Thank you for helping so many Australians and global families in this space.
And you, Nina, you are a massive inspiration too.
We will reconvene after I finish your course and learn some new skills for my family, and hopefully we can jointly help others more in the future.
I'd love that. Thank you, Nina.
Thank you.